which is... Is Frank here, by the way? Data broker Dow. Is that you, Frank? I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. I'm so sorry. So who's been here before? Not here specifically, but any of the IoT meetups. I think we've been doing them for almost 3 years now. Yeah, me too. Majority of you. So, okay, who are the newbies? Simon. Wow, okay. Who was at the IoT challenge today at Argyle House? Okay, cool. Excellent. Very good. Yeah, we've been 2 days of hacking and connecting and no soldering on this occasion, but those little breadboards are very, very fiddly. Okay, I don't know where the pizzas have gone. Because let's do the pizzas and beer first, have a little bit of networking, and then we'll crack on with our first speaker. First up, yeah, that's Al, right? You got everything you need? Yeah, you just need the USB. It's all ready to go. You got your deck lined up? Yeah, I mean, literally, you just plug it in and you're good to go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, while we wait for the pieces, let's just skip forward and do the IoT Scotland meetup kind of open forum. So this is where I just do my little bit to introduce myself, Simon Montford. I'm your host for this evening, but this is to sort of push it back in your direction to um, invite you guys to stand up, introduce yourself to the room, and talk about any kind of topic-related projects you're involved with. Maybe there's some events and conferences that you're organizing, projects, collaborators looking for to recruit someone. Um, talk about any kind of IoT-related project you're kind of hacking away. You need some assistance, some guidance. You just want to tell us about it. This is your opportunity. Anyone like open forum? This is your chance. You ordered something on Amazon today, didn't you? What was that? You're working on a project, aren't you?
I'm a second year artificial intelligence and software engineering student at the University of Edinburgh. So me and Nicola, we're working on this IoT project. Basically, we're trying to build a product. It's basically a smart lock. What it's gonna do is you're gonna use an app on your phone to unlock the lock, which the lock can be used for your house, a safe, your garage, anything. Right now, we're just building the code on IOTA. So the concept, yeah. Right, IOTA is a cryptocurrency.
Well, it's a decentralized digital ledger technology, which is not blockchain. It's a Tangos a DAG, which is entirely different and not the same as blockchain at all.
Yeah.
The same thing. Just Google it later because it's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is like, you can unlock the lock from your phone app, and Simon showed us a product that already exists in the market by August Smart Lock, but the drawback of that, yeah,
right, you open and close with an app.
yeah,
Smart home.
yeah,
And then you've got Slockit, which uses Ethereum smart
right,
contracts to unlock it.
yeah,
But you're going one step further
yeah,
using a blockchain 3.0 technology called IOT.
exactly. So it will be not possible to hack it, and the data won't be stored by the company either. There'll be no servers. It'll be stored in. So we, as a company, won't like, or anyone like August, for example, has all the data of who's entering your room and how long you're staying in and stuff. But we won't have any data. It's just like no intermediary. It's just the lock and the key working with each other.
Essentially, it's almost unhackable.
Yeah.
Providing you don't lose your private key, and then, yeah, it's hackable. There's always a missing, kind of a weak link, and usually it's the human, isn't it, in the loop, social engineering or what have you. So that's never going to be solved, even with blockchain. If you lose your private key, then you've been locked out of your own home, and that's all there is to it. I can't see how that can be solved. Anyway, guys, let's just any other quick sort of questions, comments? Thank you, by the way. And I'm really looking forward to judging the hackathon, and I'm not biased at all. I'm not, no, because what you guys are working on is very, very cool. But the other projects are equally as cool. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm Callum, and I'm a hacker. So I'm looking forward to seeing your
challenge
work
accepted.
Afterwards. Yes, it's like a rap battle, isn't it? I'm a hacker, you're going to go down. No, my message actually for today is I own a company called Connect Devices. If you make network-attached IoT, come to me afterwards. I'm very interested because we're teaching our system how to detect network-attached devices. And so we're really interested in anything that you're doing that's network-attached.
By the way, this is one of the reasons why I'm starting to attempt to ask everyone who's a member of the IoT Scotland meetup to share a clear profile photo in their full name. I mean, obviously it's based on trust, because what am I going to do? Kind of how can I actually make sure that everyone's identities are completely authentic? But rather than Bob65, kind of blank avatar, at least what we're trying to do is get members to share their the equivalent of a LinkedIn profile, because otherwise people turn up to the events and I don't know who you guys are. So if you've got a really interesting project or you've got opportunities open, I can't facilitate the connection if I don't know who it was that attended the event. So have you noticed, any of you guys, that I've started to try to say, look, can you put your full name? And only a few people have been really weird about it, and that's perfectly okay. They're just saying, no, why should I share my true identity? I'm like, okay. But yeah, it slightly defeats the object of having this sort of active network in this community that I hope all of you will leverage for the betterment of the community as a whole, but also, for your own sort of personal motivations. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So any further comments before we do the networking and then start the session with our first speaker? Anyone? No? Okay, guys, let's take 10. Yeah, catch Lorenzo. I met you yesterday. I got your name right, did I? Phew. Okay, there you go.
Hi, so like Simon said, my name is Lorenzo. I'm a final year PhD student in engineering at the University of Edinburgh. I don't really have any IoT or computer science background, but I'm trying to develop a device that moves inside grain stores and monitors the conditions, so providing a full map of the grains inside the store.
For the whiskey industry? What kind of grains are we talking about?
Agriculture industry, there's plenty of industries there, even like cocoa beans, so any sort of granular material that you put inside silos, we can move inside them. So basically my technology is the one that allows you to move inside the grains, and I have to develop the IoT side of things now.
So it's not a static sensor, it moves around?
It moves, yeah, basically. It's
okay,
a bit
that's
like
interesting.
a drone, but that moves inside grains.
That is very cool. That's very good. Okay, I like the sound of that, because potentially that could save the global industry a lot of money, because there's a lot of theft, rot, so on and so forth. So if your sensor can give an early warning that there's some moisture or toxicity, it could prevent a lot of perishable commodities from being wasted. So
yeah, right now, I mean, they lose more than 20% of material in there.
20%, Patrick.
That's in the developed world.
Don't think I'm not going to notice you sneaking in the back there. Have a seat. Welcome. Yeah, that's really exciting. This is prototype stage, or what stage?
Yeah, it is a prototype stage.
Is that what you're doing for the IoT challenge?
No, it's not for the IoT
just generally
challenge.
working on it.
Came in there for interest. And
brilliant. That's really, well, yeah, keep us posted. That's very, very interesting. Okay, any further contributors to the open forum section this evening? No. Oh, Patrick, you're always working on interesting things.
Yeah, well, time again. As some of you know, I do a lot of things with LEDs and vintage LEDs, and I've made a series of clocks which are going on exhibit at Summer Hall from Saturday onwards till I think about the 18th of March.
Clocks? LED?
LED clocks made from old kind of submarine parts and aircraft panels, etc. So there's a few of those on display, but there's art from all the people who work at Summerhall who do creative stuff are exhibiting their stuff there, and it's a free exhibition. So I'd encourage anyone who's around in the following weeks to go and check it out. It's in the basement galleries at Summerhall. Loads of cool stuff. There's stuff from the Hack Lab. I think maybe Al Bennett.
Yeah, our first speaker. Here we go.
There's electronic cool stuff there, other than mine. So
okay, definitely going to check that out. I like the sound of that. Brilliant. Okay, I think we're done with that portion of the evening. Guys, go and grab some pizza and some beer. I'm sorry, we've only got beer. No Jaeger bombs, no gin and tonics. Maybe we can go for a few afterwards. Yeah, help yourself. The fridge is open in the corner there. take another break, I promise, for networking. Sorry. We will, I promise. We'll take a break. Okay. Take a seat. Take a seat. Take a seat. Take a seat, guys. Take a seat. Take a seat. Let's get going. Hi. How are you doing? What's your name? Oh yeah, we met. Well, we didn't meet, but we met on LinkedIn. Okay, cool. Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad you made it. Really? Oh, thank you. I've only been doing this for 3 years, so by now, hopefully. I do. In Vienna. I love that city. That's very cool. Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Right, Simon, grab a seat. Is there any pizza left? Little bit of pizza. Okay. Good. You never know about the numbers because apparently meetups or free events in general, you get a 50% no-show. Just one of those things. And we generally get about 20 to 30%, which I think is good. And I haven't counted everyone, but I'll have to figure it out later. But so far, things are looking pretty good. So, Al.
Hello.
All these wonderful people have come to listen to you speak. I'd like to thank Skyscanner real quick for giving us this free venue and providing the beer and pizza. Hugely grateful. Hello to everyone on the live stream. Skyscanner, highly recommend for your travel needs. And of course, our 3 fantastic speakers who I will leave to introduce themselves in a moment. Is there anyone else that oh, Product Forge. Is there anyone from Product Forge here? Pal, do you know when the hackathon is? Because I did promise. Darn it. Okay, so there's a hackathon. They're really, really good. And Rebecca, you made it. Yes. So they're mostly, they're not like the stuff we were doing today with the IoT challenge, unfortunately. They're all software hackathons, but they're designed around solving real world challenges, and they're always themed. So there's a Product Forge around solving housing in Scotland. There was one to do with solving problems around NHS Scotland. So there was a sort of a health related one, and transportation, and what were the other ones?
IoT stuff. The kind of projects I've been involved in on the left here is some actual wireless monitoring stuff. That's why we started the company. If you have seen the Pickering's baubles that they sold at Christmas, they sold 1 million of them. We filled them with gin. So I've made controllers for distilleries, and I've built LED artworks and sat in a hole in a forest installing them. So what is the Things Network? It's a global LoRaWAN network. It started in Amsterdam, and it's kind of been spreading out from there. So there's still a big cluster in Amsterdam, but it's entirely community operated. It doesn't cost anything to use it. You can contribute to it, and it relies on people building the infrastructure. It now carries 4 million messages a day, 2,500 gateways, and 60 plus countries. The basic overview is you have an IoT device, which looks something like these, and then you have a gateway, which is a bit like an access point for Wi-Fi. It's very similar kind of setup. It then passes through the data into the Things Network, and that goes into their routers and then their servers, and it falls out at the end into either their application server or yours if you want to use your own. There's some nice things about it. One is that it is end-to-end encrypted, so the data is encrypted on these devices and then transmitted and passed through, and you can get it out at the end still encrypted if you want, if you don't trust the Things Network to unpack it for you. So it has encryption built in from the start. It's built on open source stuff, and it is in fact open source itself, so you can run your own and you can contribute to the development of it. You can go and get the entire stack and install it and run it. So it is quite powerful from that point of view. So yeah, I said it starts in Amsterdam, which is buried somewhere under that pile of markers. So each one of these is a gateway. You see they go quite far and wide now, around Finland and Pakistan. There's one that's popped up in Kathmandu a couple of days ago. So that's kind of interesting. Don't know what they're doing over there. Just to step back, so the Things Network is based on LoRa, which is a long-range, low-power protocol. So how long-range is it? Well, it is very long. And it's low power. It's really low power. You probably want some numbers. It's one of those things where you don't actually believe it until you try it, because I've worked with wireless stuff for years, and it's always nonsense when they say, oh, it can go for 10 kilometers, and nah, it doesn't. It goes nowhere near. It's like Bluetooth LE. It's like, oh yeah, it can do hundreds of meters. No, it doesn't. You can get about that far. If you've got a person in the way, then your Fitbit doesn't connect to your phone. So LoRa is interesting because it does actually pretty much do what it says it's going to do. It actually works. You can get several kilometers line of sight. If you've got a hill over there and you've got a thing over here, you can reach many kilometers. In a city, I've measured it around a kilometer from one of my units with a poorly tuned RF section has still managed to talk to a gateway over on top of Summerhall from the other end of the meadows, which is about 800, 900 meters, which is pretty good going, considering we haven't even started to tune the devices yet. And you can do hundreds of meters inside as well. So you can actually cover a large building like this one with just a few gateways dotted around. You don't need to cover like you do with Wi-Fi, where you end up with them dotted all over the place. With LoRa gateways, you can cover really quite large areas. It's 25 milliwatts transmit power, which is broadly equivalent to a fart in a hurricane. It is really not a lot of power, which means that the nodes can run for years on a single battery. It depends how often you make them transmit, but if you make them transmit once every 10 minutes or something, you can realistically run it for years on one single battery. So that's what these things are designed for, is the super low power, long-term, long-range applications. And this is the magic that makes it work. So they use this fancy new encoding protocol thing, which is called CHIRP, and it stands for something radar pulse. Tim, do you remember what it is? No, I can't remember. I think they reversed it into the name because they had a good name. But basically, each of these is a symbol, so it represents part of the data being transferred. And the frequency rises over time. So you get a chirp kind of thing as it rises up. And then you get them that go the other way, and they descend over time, and you get them different lengths. And all of that is to help get the data out from buried in the noise of the electro soup that we live in, because there's so much interference and so many other things operating. You've got garage door openers going on and off, and you've got burglar alarm systems transmitting, all sorts of stuff going on. And this is what allows them to get the data out of all of that noise. There's another clever feature, which is what they call spreading factors, and it's basically a data rate. So you can transmit really quickly, it goes zip, or you can transmit really slowly, it goes zip. And the difference with that is, with this one, you're putting a lot more power into the spectrum. So the effective power is higher, and that means that that signal is more detectable at greater distances and through higher noise. So if you are far away from a gateway, you can up the power, and it'll do that automatically. It'll dial up the power itself, like your mobile phone does talking to the mobile network. And that means you can get data much further. But if you're right next to a gateway, like we are right now, it will settle itself right down on the fastest possible transmission, because it doesn't need to output all that data. And that means that your data is transmitted quicker and your batteries last longer. So there's some clever stuff built into the protocol for that. So the Things Network has gateways, as we pointed out. So last year, we had a few gateways dotted around. This is actually Gary Martin, one of the sort of semi-regulars here. There's a couple out in Pennycook and far away kind of places, but really not much in the centre of town. And coverage was pretty poor because of that. And a few of us got chatting about it and decided that we should do something about it, and put a bit of money into it and get some gateways. So you can get gateways now. They're readily available. You can buy them online for a few £100. You can actually make them yourself This is one of the cheapest ways to make a gateway, which is a Raspberry Pi and the LoRa board on top. Total of that is about 150 quid. You can buy an off-the-shelf gateway. This is the Things Network's own gateway that they've just started shipping, which is about 250 or 300 quid, something like that. You can put them indoors, you can put them outdoors. You set them up, and then you walk away, and it just sits there working. It picks up the data, and it shovels it into the cloud. Here's mine. This is an exciting view of my loft. So I stood on a wobbly ladder and screwed an aerial up there, and there's the Pi with the LoRa concentrator on top, which is connected to my Wi-Fi, and it gathers the data and sends it into the cloud. That has actually surprised me because this is inside my loft, so there's tiles on the other side of that bit of wood. It's just a regular loft, and my house is low down. It's not a great position, but still we've managed to pick up data from Fife with this. So this is less than 300 quid's worth of bits, and it can get data from Fife from a battery-powered device that's wandering around somewhere. So the range is actually kind of believable. So we installed a few gateways, and this is where we're up to now. So the first one we put up was on in the loft at Summerhall. Tim, who's another Hack Lab member, he's put one in Portobello. We've got a couple of others popping up in the north of town, and we'd like to get a few more up there because that bit and Leith isn't particularly well covered. And they're just springing up all over the place, and we've been chatting to a few people and encouraging them to add a gateway to the network. And in doing that, we've actually created quite a lot of coverage. So this one is Tim's in Portobello. This one is mine over in Fountain Bridge. And you can see each of these lines represents a data point being transmitted from a location. So that furthest away one goes off to Fife. Tim has picked some up from Musselburgh, yep, over the water and all that. So you can see with this, it's kind of interesting, you can see where the hills are because it doesn't go through the hills. So there's Holyrood Park and Arthur's Seat and the Crags. We'd like to put one up on top of that, but don't think we can. But there's Hack Lab, and that's my walk to work, and I've got pretty much continuous coverage between now, just through two gateways. So if anybody's interested in hosting a gateway, do let us know, because yeah, more is better. So what can you do? You've got a network, and now what can we do with it? So it's designed for very low power sensors, and it's a smart buildings and industry 4.0 kind of thing where you can just slap sensors on everything and everywhere. So environmental sensing, presence detectors, so you've got little detectors in rooms that you can tell when people are in there, visitor counters when you go through doors. There's actually a community Wi-Fi network that's doing out-of-band monitoring of their systems using LoRa now. Asset tracking, so you can stick these trackers onto pallets or whatever as they get sent around, and you can tell exactly where it is in your warehouse and if somebody's nicked it. So there's lots of things you can do. One of the first applications, because it's Amsterdam, obviously, is Save My Boat. So here you put a sensor in the bottom of your boat, and if it starts to get a bit wet and it looks like it's going to sink, it will report back over the LoRa network, and then they'll send you a text message saying your boat is sinking. So hopefully you'll get there in time. There's all sorts of interesting applications with smart cities and things like that. So parking sensors. So if you're driving along and you want to know where you can park, you could even do something like have the lamppost flash over empty spaces and things like that, and it detects it by sticking a sensor in the road surface. So that sensor, you just screw it onto the road surface, and it detects if there's a car parked over it and transmits it over the LoRa network. So there's a lot of interesting kind of retrofit applications in making dumb things smarter. Gary, who I mentioned, is working on RiverTrack. I'm involved in that a little bit as well with the API and web bit of it. But essentially, if you're in a low-lying area and you're next to a river, if you're lucky, SEPA, the environmental protection people, will cover it with sensors and you'll know what's going to happen. But if you're unlucky because you live right in the middle of nowhere, they don't cover it. You've got no idea if the water's coming up. You just look out the window and see if you can see it yet. So he's building sensors that fit onto bridges and measure the height of the water and then transmit that back over LoRaWAN to display units that go in your house or even in the local pub. There's one in a pub on the whiskey shelf, so everybody can sit there and know when they need to run home and empty their shed. So he's working on that right now. Those are all made in Edinburgh. I'm making stuff as well. So we're making environmental sensing devices targeting the conservation market. So if you've got a collection of books or valuable objects in a gallery or a museum, you want to be able to monitor that they're being looked after and everything is the right environment for them. And it turns out nobody's really doing that very well yet. So we're going to start making those very soon. So that's a prototype of one of these, which is in here, and I've got a pile of them to test with. So these are the devices that I've been wandering around with just to see what the range is like. But yeah, we're getting good data out of those. This is my favorite application because it seems ridiculous. That is a mousetrap, and yeah, it's LoRaWAN connected. So when a mouse runs in, and then it tells you about it. And it seems like an entirely facetious kind of project, but actually it's really useful if you have a large building and you've got people running around resetting mousetraps and things like that. How do you know if you need to send somebody out to go and do it? Dot these around. So yeah, so that was an interesting one. It got a lot of news coverage. So let's have a quick look around and see how the Things Network works. So when you're registered, you can log into the console. These are the gateways that I have connected. So hotglue tech. So that's the one that's on top of HackLab at the moment. We might see some traffic come in, but we can see that it's last seen 7 seconds ago. So there's, it's active. There's data happening. We've received 193,000 packets into it in the last few months. So, data adds up pretty quick. I have 5 gateways, I think, connected at the moment. That's the one on my house. I've got some sensors out on my windowsill to monitor the weather and things like that, which has been quite interesting to watch. So the data that is gathered through the Things Network, so here's a packet coming in, we can see we've got a payload size of 19 bytes. So it's very small amounts of data that we're looking at here. And we can shovel the data through a whole bunch of integration stuff. So we can take the data that comes in from the Things Network and pipe it through into almost anything and display it in useful ways. So we're putting into a monitoring system here called Zabbix, which is giving interesting graphs. If I show you the process of connecting something, so if I go to the gateway that I have right here, so this is a gateway on a short cable, but you can come over and have a look later. So that's picking up everything that we have in the room and further away at the moment. So there's a device that Tim has made, which is doing temperature, humidity. So mine's doing a very similar thing as well. We can see, if I do this and then reconnect that, we should see some traffic come in. Am I looking at the right one? Yeah, there we go. So the device is asked to join the network. That packet has been picked up by this gateway, put into the Things Network cloud, and their servers have responded already to say, yes, you can connect, and all that's taken just under a second to happen. The device is then allocated an address. So it's like connecting your Wi-Fi, your phone or laptop up to a Wi-Fi network. It's the same kind of process of getting connected. And now we see data packets coming in. So these one with the blue arrows here are bits of data coming in. This will transmit every 20 seconds, I think. So yeah, so we can pile data through this network. So now, if I wander off with that, I could get some way down Lauriston, and it would still be picked up by this gateway. So by just dotting a few of these gateways around town, you actually do create quite a lot of coverage. And all of it ends up coming into here. There are lots of other integrations and things as well. So the Things Network, they're doing quite a lot of interesting stuff. You can register your application and you register your devices to that. So I've got 10 devices registered to my application. So they're all my devices, which are equivalent to these. And we can see all the data that's coming in. This is a bunch of data that's coming in from all different sources. You can tell by the temperatures which ones are in Scotland and which ones are in my business partner's house in Slovakia, where it never goes below 23 degrees. But you can integrate this with a lot of other things. So you can poke the data straight out of the Things Network into Cayenne or any number of other sensor platforms. So if this, then that. So you can trigger things to happen off data that you've gathered. And TTN Mapper is an interesting application. So this is how we can draw these nice maps of what the coverage is like. You can wander around with a GPS-enabled node and start to record data. And you transmit your coordinates to TTN Mapper. And if it gets picked up by the LoRa network, then it will say, OK, I heard you from there, and the signal strength was this. And then it starts to draw these nice kind of graphs, so you can see exactly where your gateways will reach. So if you look here, we're actually getting pretty good coverage now of the center of town. And this is where you see these odd ones that go all the way over here, which was a surprise to us all, really, to Aberdeen. So that's quite interesting to have a look at. And it shows really that, yes, this is actually a very useful technology because it does work in a real world city environment, which is what's kind of new and exciting about this. I suppose there are some competitor things like NB-IoT, which is run on the mobile network. That isn't enabled yet, but is coming in the next kind of year, I think, in the UK. There's some trials going on there. And it'll be interesting to see what that does to LoRaWAN and the Things Network, whether it is actually competition or whether it just is targeting a different market. I think it's a slightly different market. And I think LoRaWAN has a lot of good applications because you can just drop gateways in wherever you need them. You're not relying on anybody else to provide your coverage, which is one of the downsides of Sigfox, which you may have heard of as well, which uses very similar RF technology, but they charge you per device. So they charge you, I think it's €7 a year per device, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you want to put thousands of these devices into a building or around, it adds up. And you're reliant on their coverage as well, so you can't add to the network, whereas you can with the Things Network. So I think that was pretty much where I got to. So thank you very much for listening.
Right, I think we're a little bit behind schedule. Sorry for anyone who is watching via the live stream. I think we're going to crack on to the next speaker. Frank, where are you? Oh, there you are. Yeah. Okay. But in the meantime, while you get set up, we'll do a brief Q&A. And then we can do like a more kind of open panel session at the end with all three speakers. Privilege of hosting the event, I have a question. Edinburgh Uni and of course Census out in Glasgow, they're deploying their own LoRa network. How does that tie into what you guys are doing?
It doesn't. It provides coverage, but you have to be registered on their network. So Edinburgh Uni has done quite a lot. They've been covering a lot of their buildings. So I think they've got gateways on 5 or 6 buildings around town.
Yeah, they've got it on George Square, the University Library.
And out
they've
King's
got one out
buildings and things like that, which is great, but you have to be registered with them to use it. And actually their network doesn't support some of the things that the Things Network does. So you can't send data down from the network to a device. And that's one of the big gotchas with their network at the moment. And they're a bit picky about what you do with it as well. They want to know what you're up to. Because they've got concerns about, they use it for research projects and things, but they've got concerns about, commercial data and things like that. Really, you shouldn't be putting commercial data over it. So it's a little bit...
Because you guys at Edinburgh Uni, right? Who else in here is part of the Edinburgh Uni Mafia? University. So you guys get access to this now, or what? What are the rules imposed by the Edinburgh Uni LoRa network? Students only?
No, it's difficult to get access.
You guys even aren't allowed to use it yet?
We could. I think if we asked nicely, I think we could.
Okay.
But it just seems a bit closed still.
People actually coming to us.
Yeah.
How they can get on because they can't get onto the university network at the moment.
Right.
But I think, is it this summer that roaming comes between the networks?
Yeah, so roaming is new in LoRaWAN 1.1, which has just been released, and you should be able to roam like you can on the internet, so that'll be interesting. So you can connect to anybody's gateway, and it will figure out how to get your data to your network. And that will really open it up, I think. That'll be quite good. But then the uni will have to allow for that, because they'll be having other people's data crossing their network. So. And there's lots of other LoRaWAN networks springing up as well. There's a big test one in Glasgow, and I can't remember who that's by.
Well, that's Census.
Is that Census?
Right.
But again, they're trying to find a way to charge for access to the network, which is tricky. And so I think the Things network is a bit more like the open internet, where you take what you get and it's free to use, which is probably a more open model, and I think it's easier to develop in that kind of environment as well. So. Okay. Pros and cons. But.
We'll come back to that. We're going to crack on with the next speaker and hold your questions till the end. And then we'll do, like I said, an open forum. Okay, thank you so much, Al. Round of applause. Right. Frank, you're all good to go?
I think it works. Everybody hears me.
Do you want to use the other mic?
It's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's working? Okay.
Okay. I'm going to start showing a small video. It's an explainer video we are making at this time, so it's not the final version. I just received it between Brussels and Edinburgh in London Heathrow. I decided to show it because it gives a little impression of what we are talking about. That was the goal of the video anyway.
In 2019, there will be 33 billion sensors all around the world, capturing all sorts of data. All this data goes through a gateway operator into data silos, where it gets locked away after it's served its purpose. All $600 billion worth per year. But imagine a world where you can search and buy any amount of data you need from all over the world. By using a decentralized network named Ethereum, in combination with smart contracts, we connect buyers and sellers of data from all over the world. Sounds amazing, you'd say? Well, it is. And what's even better, this marketplace already exists. Join us now at Data Broker DAO, the global market for local data based on blockchain technology.
Right, can I jump in real quick? I should have said this before. There is Wi-Fi. No, actually there is a password. It's Skyscanner Guest. The password is Skyscanner Guest. All lowercase. Okay to take photos, and this is all public domain and so on? Fantastic.
It's obligatory.
All right, excellent. Cool.
Okay. So I'm Frank. I flew over from Leuven. It's close to Brussels, but nicer. It's in the Flemish part of Belgium, so I don't speak Scottish. I worked with a Scottish guy 20 years ago. It was really fun, but so I hope you understand when I say data, it means data. And Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi. I happen to speak Spanish at home too, so it mixes up my English. So I'm not a techie profile. So complicated questions can be answered later. I'll take note of it and we'll take care of you after. I'm taking care of marketing and communications in Data Broker DAO. Data Broker DAO is actually founded within Settlement, which is also a startup. Started in 2016. Settlement helps businesses get their existing business into the blockchain technology. While we were looking for a good use case to, how do I say, to show what we can do, we discovered a nice or a great opportunity which is a marketplace for data. I'm not used to present. It's the first time. I'm a bit lost there. So yeah, a marketplace where you can buy and sell sensor data. So the presentation before was really technical. This one is more an economical view on the thing. This marketplace can turn sunk costs into revenue streams. So today we're not yet operational, but we will be up and running by the end of the year. So Simon asked already, like, we are traveling a lot this year. All my colleagues, well, not all of them, but a lot of colleagues are traveling all over the world. I have to jump in now. It's my first time, so sorry for the, I'm not that fluent in those things. We have, worldwide, there is an interest for this platform. So we're flying around to go and show. I'm gonna try not to make it complex because, yeah, I don't think it's necessary. The video showed a bit what it's about. You should know the market of IoT sensors reached $600 billion in 2015, with 9 billion sensors installed globally. Expected is to reach 34 billion sensors installed by 2019. The value of the data to the owners of the sensors is around 300 billions per year, actually. Yeah, that was a slide I had to show. Okay, sorry. This shows what I was just saying. A huge potential, or a market that is rapidly growing. 90% of the sensor data is produced by corporations and governments. Only 10% comes from customer devices. What do I have to say about that? Yeah, so we have manufacturing companies, natural resources, utilities, transport, and government. Those are the ones producing the most of the data. Personal data is the mobile devices and everything. It's a smaller piece of the pie. Yeah. So the data produced and used exclusively by owners of sensors is around $300 billion per year. 10% of the data is interesting to potential buyers. And data will be interesting to 1 to 3 buyers on average. So if there is an interesting set of data, it could be sold 1 to 3 times. So we estimate the value of those data today between 30 and 90 billion dollars per year. As the number of sensors deploy fast, we expect by 2020 to triple, so to 30 billion instead of 9.7 billion today. So we expect the value of the data interested for resale to grow from to 90 to 270 billion per year by 2020. Today, so as I said, we are working on the real platform, but we have a beta version that's to see on the website. It gives an idea of what we are doing. I'm going to come back to the website later because I had a question when I just came in from Simon about our token sale. I'll show the dates later. The revenue model is 80% of the data sold on the platform will be for the sensor owner. The gateway operator, which streams the data, will get 10%, and data broker DAO gets 10% too. Consultancies are using a lot of data today, but there are a lot of use cases that, yeah, how do I say, where we see a lot of potential, like academics using data to put new data and well, they can sell the enriched data on the platform. Smart cities improve the quality of life of their citizens. when they can have access to data, because if they don't, with this platform, they can access data. Without this platform, they are, how do you say, they have to install the sensors themselves. It's a huge cost. With this platform, the data can be bought easily, and well, that's more interesting. Smart consumption is, new business models will deliver both commercial success and wider sustainability. Agriculture. For example, in Belgium, we have 10% of the farmers that are techie, so they have their own weather station. If they could sell their data to the national weather forecast services, the weather would be predicted much better. So this is another example. Agriculture. I told you. Smart cars. Full of sensors today. A lot of potential to come. Industrial manufacturing and health monitoring. All sectors have a lot of potential. Then, we are looking for alliance partners. Why? Because we want to gain recognition as we're building this alliance with other organizations, for example, smart city initiatives and these sensor manufacturers. We search for mutual benefits and similar interests. A little picture of the team. The two on the top there, Matthew and Roderick, had the idea. Those are the two bandits that made me come here today. We have a team of marketeers, developers, and the lowest row is our advisors. This is Patrick Byrne from Overstock.com. It's a great believer in what we do. And Julian Marler is an advisor from Proximus, which is the biggest telecom company in Belgium. So they possess or they stream a lot of data too. And I think the website is better done than my speech, that's for sure. I would say stay tuned for more exciting news on databroker.com. I will show the website just to show the dates of the token sale. And on Medium, the community is growing fast today because we're going towards our token sale. So any questions can be given. No, that's Telegram. Medium is just our blog, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. Questions can be sent to me or...
Is this your final slide?
Yeah.
Frank? Excellent.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in here real quick? Who's read the white paper? Okay. Who understands what this is and why blockchain is important? Okay, the best way to describe it, I know, Frank, you said it very eloquently, but essentially, a lot of these IoT devices, just in the same way, that Al described, you've got sensors, right, that are generating all kinds of data, humidity, temperature, and that data may be very valuable to third parties, for example, meteorologists. How do you think those guys do the weather forecasts? They're accumulating vast quantities of data, and that data has a value. So wouldn't it be useful for your average individual who maybe has hundreds? Well, let's start off with a few today. I don't honestly know how many IoT devices I own, but it's quite a few, and it's growing a number. But on average, corporations aside, just individuals will have hundreds of different devices, and that data is just being trapped in these silos. But it could be immensely valued to other people on the network, and they'd be more than willing to buy that data for whatever application. So it could be, like I said, it could be transportation data if it's a smart car. It could be weather data, weather-related data for meteorologists and so on and so forth. Now, why is blockchain relevant? Why is cryptocurrency relevant? For human-to-human transactions, dollars, pounds, euros, it kind of makes sense, right? But for machines, they may want to transact a tiny quantity of data or some form of value. It could be CPU cycles or a little bit of storage capacity or act as a gateway, and they may want to charge 10,000th of a cent or possibly even 100,000th of a cent. in people to people, that seems ridiculous, but it's the equivalent of me going into a newsagent with nothing but $50,000 notes, okay, and asking to buy a stick of gum. You wouldn't know what to do with a $50,000 note. You know, that denomination is too big. It's not fit for purpose. But for the machine economy, all these edge devices, each transaction may be tiny in quantity. Like I said, a thousandth or a 10,000th or a 100,000th of a cent. But the volume of transactions could be trillions of transactions globally per day or per hour. I mean, it depends how far out we're talking. We're talking about billions and billions of connected devices, each transacting. You can't do that with fiat. How can you possibly bill for that? Which is why you need those cryptocurrencies. So how much is a Satoshi? It's a really small denomination of value. Anyone know? 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. Okay, you do the maths. That's the level we're talking about, an IOTA, right? So you're actually buying an M-IOTA when you buy which is 1 million IOTA. So an IOTA is a millionth of an IOTA, and one IOTA is worth what? Or M-IOTA today? I don't know what the unit price is. $5. So you're dividing $5 by 1 millionth. Okay, you get the picture. Fiat doesn't work for this application. This is why we need micro, nano transactions. And the only way you can denominate such a fine grain is cryptocurrency like IOTA, Ethereum, or a token such as yours. It's a fit-for-purpose utility token that will be used specifically for this purpose. So you're building a kind of an eBay, a tradable platform for data generated by IoT devices, traded in tiny, tiny, tiny little increments. That could potentially be valuable one day. Humans can buy this, yeah. The data is cropped up into tiny little encrypted segments and distributed across a very wide network. So as a hacker, you don't know where the honeypot is, unlike a central server data model, where in AWS you can use brute force, theoretically know where Amazon stores its data. But with the distributed network, blockchain network, distributed storage, Seacoin, and so on, the file is globally distributed, cut into small little increments, right? It's impossible to find, almost unhackable. Nothing's entirely hackable. But that's a different conversation. I've kind of gone off on one here, so I slightly digressed. All I wanted to do was figure out whether you guys sort of understood the value proposition of what's being offered. But before I go on, what I would like to do is perhaps hold the questions, go straight on to the next speaker, and then we'll do an audience Q&A with the 3 speakers at the front of the room. How does that sound? Okay? All right, round of applause. Thank you so much, Frank. Stick around, and we'll do the Q&A at the end. Because I would like to sort of understand the rationale for the valuation of your token, being 25 cents per token. Okay, right, you're going to use mine.
Yeah.
Dongle.
Just put it in the pocket, yeah.
Does anyone know what an ICO is, by the way? Initial coin offering.
offering.
Raise your hand if you know what an ICO is. Okay, that's pretty good. But we need to discuss what the heck an ICO is and why it's important and topical and right. And my email. Okay, I've got 2 attachments. They look to be the same.
I think it was just transmitted twice.
I see. Okay. This is a Mac and yours is a PowerPoint, right?
Yep.
So it's going to convert it into Keynote.
That's fine.
That's
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Are you happy to use the space bar? I mean, I could give you a Bluetooth click over there.
Well, space bar's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Curious Chip. I love that name.
Curious
That
Chip.
is so cool. Okay, guys, you ready? All good? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Sukhbir Dhillon. Based in Glasgow, I am one half of Curious Chip.
Before we continue, can we just do a round of applause? Sorry. I forgot to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, my business partner, Jason, I think Simon was under the impression he was going to come first. I was on holiday at the time. And I think Simon kind of approached me to do a talk on Kickstarter. So, you know, the very first talk that was done was very technical. Second one was a bit less. Mine's is even less than that. I'm assuming, you know, before we start that, everyone knows what Kickstarter is. Yeah. Has anyone done a Kickstarter campaign? One. Anyone planning on doing one? Okay. So we did sort of 1.5 Kickstarter campaigns, and I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly side of Kickstarter. You know, some people think that this is how you get a business started, and you know, you build it, and people will come, and you know, it'll be a fantastic success, blah blah blah. But there's a ton of work that that goes into it, and you know, despite the number of books that you read, the number of talks that you go to, no one will really tell you what's actually involved, and how hard it actually is, and how much it costs to actually run a campaign. So I'll, you know, share all my findings with you. Some findings we had, you know, we were aware of before the campaign. Some findings we became aware of during the campaign, and a lot of findings we became aware of after the campaign as well. So I'll share all the mistakes that we made. So hopefully, when you guys are running a campaign, you don't have to go through all that pain that we went through. So I'm going to talk about the product first of all, what the idea was, how the idea started, and the stage that we're at now, and you know, the journey that we're also taking forward. So I'm going to come on to the Kickstarter part of it, sort of halfway through the presentation. First of all, just to give you an idea of, you know, the hardware product that we made. So I'm not a technical guy. My background is I'm a pharmacist by trade. Don't ask why or what or anything. I've also got a background in restaurants as well. But I love, you know, my technology. I love making things. You know, ever since I was a child. You know, my very first sort of, you know, I mean, you guys have probably done things, you know, just which are just as crazy. But I thought, you know, taking a 5-volt motor, if I plugged it into the mains, it would go much faster. Doesn't happen. Big black mark on the wall afterwards. Parents coming home, you know, all the fuses are kind of out, and yeah, learn things the hard way. So Jason Frame is a good friend of mine, business partner. We're both parents, we've got kids, and this is kind of how the conversation started. So, you know, we'd always kind of discuss doing a business together, and one day while we were standing in the playground waiting to collect our kids, we just kind of had this, you know, idea that, well, we were just kind of talking through about the computers that we had when we were growing up, and they were the BBC Micros, the Amstrads, you know, the Commodore. So when we went home, then Jason dropped me a message and said, "Want to help me make a computer?" And I said, "Yeah, what kind?" And he said, "A little one for kids." So we knew nothing about how to make a computer. Jason's a software engineer, very smart, very switched on guy. If you have any technical questions, he's a guy to ask, and I can certainly direct you towards him. And this is really how the journey kind of started. So some people think, you know, how do you go from an idea to actually having a physical product, right? So this is how it starts. This is really the nitty-gritty of it. You draw a crappy diagram like that, you know, just to kind of sketch out what the idea should be like. And then, you know, we went to this kind of foam cutout. Now, we had no experience of making anything at that sort of stage, right? So we were trying to find people that could help us on this journey. We didn't have a big budget, so we were basically looking for, you know, any sort of freelancers that could help us in the journey. So we found a guy who, you know, again, he was good at gluing things together and shaping things and coming up. I mean, it was never going to be a polished product, but having said that, when we, you know, had this presented to us, we thought, wow, that looks good. Now, there's actually nothing there. It's just a stupid plastic keyboard stuck on top of some foam, right? But you get a good, you know, looks like, feels like product. Going on from that, now this journey for us started back in February 2012. This was just before the Raspberry Pi had launched. You know, so our idea was, you know, there should be a computer for kids. This is how it should be. This was presented at the, it was actually a JavaScript conference in Edinburgh, and this was in June 2016. So this is the result of a few laser cut pieces of acrylic glued together. You can see what's inside. It doesn't look very pretty. We had no idea how to build a computer, so we were basically just taking off-the-shelf components and fudging it together to make it look like it did something. Now, as you can see, it's just one wire that's connected there. Everything else is just kind of super glued onto a PCB. So going on from that, this is the next prototype that we had. Does a wee bit more, still not the way that it should be, but we basically again had a Beagle board connected to an Arduino here, and all the wires you can see again, some are connected up, some are just glued on again. At that point, we kind of realised we need to get our own board made. So we reached out to a company, and they were actually based in Livingston, and they developed this larger board for us. Now, this was a mistake to an extent because we didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't know what we wanted on it. We had a sort of general idea, and over time we kind of realised that, we don't need these components, we don't need those components. We did find a freelance electronics engineer. He developed the board at the bottom, which was basically our version of the Arduino. So it means that we wanted to make a computer that children could basically just kind of start tinkering and hacking with. They can plug in motors and lights and sensors, and they can start coding. This board ultimately cost us about £30,000. The Raspberry Pi came on board. Raspberry Pi started to gain a lot of traction, started to get a big community behind it. So after spending £30,000 on this, we thought, let's just actually put a Raspberry Pi inside it. It took us about 4 years to get to this stage, and this was a sort of final product that we had. And now this was a 3D printed one. So we were doing bits and pieces. I was kind of teaching myself, CAD in the background. I was teaching myself how to do 3D printing in the background as well. This is one of the ones that I did actually end up 3D printing. And back in June 2016, so that was a 4.5 year journey to get to this stage, we went live on Kickstarter. So put it on Kickstarter, and Kickstarter's a bit of a funny beast. Pretty much every single campaign that you see in Kickstarter goes through the same life cycle. If you look at the data on it, you go to a website called KickTrack. KickTrack, you can put in any product that's been on Kickstarter. You can see on a daily basis how many pledges are coming in, what days the bulk of the money came in. Now, again, the advice we had at that point was run a 30-day campaign. The first 2 days are really your critical 2 days. If you don't make your money or make any sort of dent in the first 2 days, you're dead, right? So within 36 hours, we realised, and I'll come on to why we had these sort of issues, right? But within 36 hours, we pulled the campaign. It was actually a very painful decision to make. It's kind of like killing off a loved person, to be honest, because this is something that we were working on for 4.5 years, and then you have to kind of have a bit of a reality check and say, what, it's not happening. Let's stop it. So it took us about 4 months. Well, we took a 4 month sort of period of time off, but this is really why, this is what went wrong, really. We spent too much time on product. We didn't spend a lot of time on outreach. We thought we could manage the whole thing ourselves. We were quite naive. We're not, social media savvy in any sort of sense. We tweet very rarely. We're not, outgoing in that sort of sense. We don't post pictures of our soups and whatnot. People tend to post these days. We didn't spend any time or effort on community building, spent too long in development. Product's vision was too open-ended. There wasn't a clear customer. It was just, people like us, and that's really what we were kind of flying on. In short, like it says at the bottom there, we didn't really have a clue what we were doing. So 4 months later, we kind of, thought, right, what, the idea itself was good. What's changed? Now, the landscape had changed so much because the Raspberry Pi had come on board. Other competitors came on board. I don't know if you're aware of a company called Kano, but they launched a Kickstarter campaign. They made $1.5 million. In retrospect, we realised how they made that $1.5 million, and I'll come on to that in a wee bit as well. There's another company called PiTop. PiTop, again, took a Raspberry Pi, and they basically made a laptop around the whole thing. So Ada, the products we were making, all of our USPs over time started to erode. So we basically had a product which wasn't anywhere near as advanced as what the other guys had. They had big teams behind them. They had big budgets to actually do what they had. We were working on a shoestring budget. So we took 4 months breaks, as I said, re-examined the landscape and thought, what is it that's going to get people excited? So we came up with a device that we called PIP. So what is it? It's basically a small pocket-sized device you can program yourself. We thought we need to actually, make it smaller, make it portable, put a screen in it, make it into something that they could actually take anywhere and start using anywhere. Based on a Raspberry Pi platform, but we're not using a normal Raspberry Pi, we're actually using the Raspberry Pi compute module. We had our own board developed around that, so I'll come on to that in a minute as well. We've got 2 detachable USB games controllers. Now, people look at PIP and they say it's a rip-off from Nintendo Switch. Believe it or not, the detachable controllers we actually came out with before Nintendo launched theirs. So you get some harsh comments from people as well, but I'll come on to what it is. But so the idea again was, it's just a device you can pick up. You don't have to install anything. You can access it from any browser. You can start coding. You can start tinkering and making. Now, Raspberry Pi Foundation have been pushing, Python. So Python seems to be all the rage at the moment, that this is what kids should be learning. But we wanted to make, and again, it goes back to a device that we wanted, something that we could pick up and start playing with. We wanted kids to be able to, learn to code with it as well. So what we are supporting is block-based coding. You can program in JavaScript, Python, Lua, HTML, PHP, and there are lots of built-in libraries as well. So this is our journey of PIP. So having learned everything we did with Ada, we started on another journey. Although this time we had a bit more of a clue in terms of what we were doing. So starting off with version 1 in the corner, that was basically just a Raspberry Pi that was hacked together. So as I said, my background is just, it's got nothing to do with this, but I like breaking things up. So we basically, broke all the connectors off a Raspberry Pi, desoldered them all, attached a screen, broke them out to the shape that we wanted. Taught myself CAD. We went to the Maker Faire in Newcastle, demoed it, got some great feedback from the kids that were there. These pictures here again just show the PCB that we actually had made. So this is kind of showing you the whole journey in terms of how it went. So this is the PCB that we've got. We didn't use a normal Raspberry Pi because we had a specific form factor in mind. The Raspberry Pi didn't fit around that, and again, we didn't want to just be another Me Too product. The Raspberry Pi compute module is just like a memory, a DIMM module, which just kind of slots into the connector there. So we've got the HDMI connector, 2 USB connectors. Those sort of GPIO ports at the top, we basically just got rid of. On the other flip side of this, we've got 8 RGB LEDs built in. We've also broken out the Raspberry Pi, 40-pin GPIO as well. This is version 1, showing you Space Invaders at the bottom there. It's Captain America firing off Iron Man. This is version 2, so this is a version that we actually took to the Maker Faire and allowed people to kind of play with. We've been to the BET show, twice with PIP as well now, and again, the feedback we've had from schools, educators, buyers has been phenomenal. So this is the version 3 that we've got. This is a version that we actually put on Kickstarter, and after we did the Kickstarter campaign, we looked at it and thought this looks pretty ugly still, and this is kind of a prototype of version 4. So this is kind of the form factor and shape of the final version that will ship. Now, coming on to Kickstarter, what is Kickstarter, right? So I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of what the crowdfunding campaign, etc. is, but Kickstarter is not what it used to be. So when Kickstarter started off, you could put a product on, it would get it across to the world, people would come on, back you, blah, blah, blah. So there have been a lot of failed Kickstarter campaigns. There have been a lot of scams in Kickstarter, so people are generally quite wary of campaigns that do come on. It is a month of pain. It's probably the toughest 30 days that I've had, and also Jason's had as well. It is pretty much a roller coaster of emotions that you do go through. And Kickstarter should really be used to gain traction and exposure. You should never look at it as a way to start a company. I think this notion that you're going to raise, £4 million or a couple of £1 million, and you can have 20 staff working and doing this and doing that, it's not going to happen. You need to have a big budget to actually run a Kickstarter campaign. The reason that companies like Kano, etc., were successful, I don't know whether you know about the background or the investors in Kano, but You know, Alex Klein's brother is a guy called Saul Klein, and he was actually a partner in Index Ventures. So I can see where their money came from, you know, where all the marketing budget, you know, basically came from. Oh, that's not very nice. Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. So just before Kickstarter, just before you launch a campaign, right, these are some of the things that you should be doing and looking at. Beware of experts. Anyone here from a marketing company? No? Good. Don't use them. After we sort of, you know, cancelled our first campaign, we thought, you know what, we need to get a marketing company because we're crap at this sort of stuff. We need someone who knows their stuff. There are lots of companies out there that say we are Kickstarter experts, we're Kickstarter partners, blah, blah, blah. What we found out after our 30 days of pain is that Kickstarter just gives out, you know, yep, that's fine, you guys are good, you guys are good, you guys are good, and that's it, right? They've got no way of verifying any results that these guys are producing. And you soon, well, afterwards, you actually find out that some of the other campaigns that they've run for other companies have not been that great either, and they don't really speak very highly of it. But by then, you've invested a ton of money. For us, we ended up, I would say, wasting about £24,000 with this marketing company. These guys don't come cheap. £24,000, having said that, is still a drop in the ocean compared to what you need to run a campaign if you want it to really kind of go off the charts, right? Now, you need to be very clear about your market, you need to be very clear about the message that you're getting across, and you need to be very specific about your customer. The issues that we've always had is we've always said, it should be, you know, a device for us, it should be a device for kids, it should be a device for retro gamers, it should be a device for hackers. No, you need to basically turn around and say, well, okay, all of those are very nice, but our device is basically going to be for children aged 8 to 14, you know, who want to use it for this specific purpose. If you go any broader than that, you're just messing up the message. We made that kind of mistake when we were doing this campaign because we were thinking, you know what, we want to reach two markets. We want to also reach retro gamers. Now, retro gamers are very finicky people. They're very protective of, you know, retro games, and also, you know, you get gamers like the Nintendo Switch owners who, again, love that device, and anything that they see, you know, that kind of is similar to it is basically, it's like sacrilege to them, to be honest, and they will come down on you hard like a ton of bricks, right? Make sure you've got a good prototype and video. To do any Kickstarter campaign now, you can't just go in with renderings. You actually have to have a physical product. Ideally, it should be working. A video you would need to make as well. Now, in the previous olden days, you could get away with a video that you've made on a smartphone on a low budget. Our video ended up costing us about £6,000 roughly. So as a ballpark figure, I'm just throwing these figures around, but this is kind of probably the industry average that you would expect to pay. Now, that £6,000 was actually included in the £24,000 that we spent with the marketing company, so it wasn't a complete loss. Choose your launch date wisely. The marketing company did say to us, you know, anything up to December, you'll be fine. Try not to push it beyond that. In hindsight, December was a bad time to launch because people don't really care about what you're doing. People are just interested in Christmas. They're interested in what their child wants, you know, which next Furby that they want. That's it. They're not interested in what's going on in Kickstarter. You need to have a budget for Facebook marketing. Now, people will say, you know, tweet about it, blog about it, do this, do that. You can have a whole lot of good things going behind you, but Facebook, to be honest, is really the best platform, you know, to market your products. In order to do that, you will need to chuck a ton of money behind Facebook marketing. Depending on who you talk to, you know, the ones that are actually very honest, they will tell you how much they put in. You should budget. Now, the figures I'm talking about, right, this is if you really want to have a successful campaign that's going to give you £1 million plus. Any less than that, you can, you know, you can cut corners. You need to spend about £20,000 on Facebook advertising before your campaign. You need to spend about £20,000 on Facebook advertising during your campaign. So you know, you can look at rubbing away £40,000 on Facebook during your campaign. Having said that, if you do that, you've got a good shot of actually getting your £1 million campaign, right? You need to get traction before launch. This again was, you know, something that we were ill-advised on. The marketing company we chose said, don't tell anyone about it, because if you tell anyone about it, no one will want, the press won't pick up on it. So you want to basically just kind of keep it under the radar, and then we'll do a big launch on the press. Then that will get traction. That's wrong. Don't do that. You need to start building up People need to start seeing your product 3 or 4 times before they actually buy it. If you're doing this, secretive stealth launch and they only see it once, they've not got much of a chance to actually come back and review it, get to know it. So you're losing a whole lot of people out there. Build a database of potential buyers. These 2 companies I've put down here, they came to our attention halfway through the campaign. By then, it was a bit too late for us, but Nuke Digital do Facebook marketing for you. This guy called Samit Patel. These guys actually come very highly recommended by Kickstarter themselves. Samit Patel, again, they basically take your £40,000 and spend that for you. How do they get their money? Nuke Digital will charge you about a couple of... Am I sort of running out of time here?
Yeah, I think we need to...
Yeah, okay.
I want to open up to questions.
Cool. Nuke Digital charge you about £2,000 a month. Samit Patel will basically take a percentage. He'll take 6% off whatever you raise, right? So the last point I want to get on is price point. If you go on Kickstarter, you can't look at making any margins in this product. You have to basically sell it pretty much at cost price. If it's going to cost you about £100 to make, you're looking at selling it on Kickstarter for about 105. That's pretty much how bad Kickstarter is, to be honest, right? Your margins are going to be nothing. So just kind of going on to, this, I mean, I can talk to you about that afterwards if you want this, but a lot of people say get your friends and family there. Friends and family don't really care about what you're doing. They're not going to back you. Hold your nerves, highs and lows. I mean, we were one of the projects that Kickstarter loved. We also were sent out a Kickstarter email. That didn't really help either. Gelop is a company which helps you with your Kickstarter campaign, but they will only help you if you have reached £100,000. If you've not reached £100,000, they're not interested. And again, they take quite a big chunk percentage-wise from it as well. BackerKit and all these other companies, you'll get lots of emails from them saying, we can help you, we've got all these backers, blah, blah, blah. They don't do anything for you either. They, again, want to take a percentage, ignore them at all costs. We got some great PR, we got some good traction from it. We also got Eben Upton, as you can see there, he loves Pip. He did a sort of 2-minute re-interview for us as well. Again, you can go online and have a look at that. We were featured in TechCrunch, the Next Web. So we got some great PR coverage out of this, right? And if you want great coverage out of it, yes, do Kickstarter, get it to get some traction, but please, as I said, don't think you're going to build a multi-million-pound business out of Kickstarter, right? Another few things, sorry, I think these are important. I just want to kind of get these into perspective.
Because, like I said, we can cover it during the Q&A.
Right, okay. I'll leave it out then, I'll kind of move on. But the funds received is not what you're going to get. So if it looks like someone's actually got, £100,000, chances are they've only got about £40,000, £50,000 in the bank, because some cards are get declined. Some people don't pay their pledges, etc.
And Kickstarter take a commission, right?
Kickstarter take a commission as well, yeah. So you can write off about 8% for Kickstarter and PayPal fees straight off the bat. Plus there's other money that won't come in. So yeah, I'll kind of leave that out there. These are some of the skills that I've kind of picked up on the journey. And yeah, I'll let you move on.
Round of applause, thank you. Right. You guys, we just want to take 4 seats to the front. Al, if you could grab a chair. You need to grab a chair. Frank. Come here. Come front. So, just backing up a little bit, does anyone understand the connection between crowdfunding, pre-tail, and ICOs? They all have something in common. So let's just back up a little bit. Let's just break it down to a simple concept at this stage. Wouldn't it be very cool if before you built anything, and it doesn't matter whether it's a decentralized blockchain-based protocol to buy and sell data, or whether it's a connected hardware device for educating kids, yeah? Doesn't matter what the product is, the concept is the same. What you're essentially doing is saying, we haven't built it yet, and rather than go to professional investors like angel investors and VCs that want their pound of flesh, right, because they're only motivated in terms of investing in your business. They don't really ultimately care about the product, they're not the end user. They just want to make money from the investment, return on investment, and they take big chunks of equity. So this concept, crowdfunding, pre-tail, and ICOs to a certain extent, is the ability to reach out to potential end users So it could be owners of edge devices and entities that want to monetize and utilize that data, or it could be connected products, or it could even be fashion. There was I don't even know if it still exists. ModCloth. Anyone come across ModCloth? So before designers actually brought fashion pieces to market, they would gauge the demand, and if people just didn't want it to be designed and built, then they wouldn't bother going and building it. They actually got people to say, either, yeah, we really want that, that's fantastic, or actually volunteer, tell the makers what kind of clothing that they wanted to have designed. So it's a brilliant way to get instant feedback from your end users and get them to fund it. They actually pre-purchase, hence pre-tail, retail, pre-tail. So in both these cases, you've got your end users, the actual people who want this product, who are giving you money to build it. Now, I think the disconnect with crowdfunding, like Indiegogo and other crowdfunding campaigns, including Kickstarter, was the early adopters got this. They understood it was based on a patronage model. Like, back in the day, these very wealthy patrons would pay for art. They're not looking for any kind of return. They just feel like they want to have this product. The world would be a better place, and they want this product to be made, right? So they're not buying it because they want the product immediately. They want to see it get built, and they want to support the initiative. That's why they're willing to part their money. And it doesn't matter if at the end of the day the project fails or they don't get a return on their investments. That's not what they're there to do. But gradually and slowly, there's been this disconnect where people on these crowdfunding campaigns are there because they just want the product, and they want it today, and they think that it's going to be cheaper than a similar product on a retail platform. Now, the point is, this is such a unique product that if you hadn't built that, it wouldn't get built. Yeah. Same with ICOs. These people who are investing in your business want to see that platform being built. The only difference is, how much money did you raise?
We raised £40,000.
40,000. How much money are you guys going to raise?
I think now around 18 million euros.
You see what I mean? This is the ICO. ICO stands for initial coin offering, and it's, if you're being cynical, it's a way of taking a company public in the form of an IPO without any kind of due diligence or regulation, right? Because it costs millions to take a company public, and you've got to be a very built-out, mature, low-risk company before the regulators will allow you to go public, to actually offer your stock to retail investors. With an ICO, theoretically, you can bypass that and go straight to a public market, list your token, and anyone can buy it. However, it's not a security, right? It's a utility token. Yeah. So that makes it magically different because it passes the Howey test. So explain to us what the difference is between a security and a utility token. I'll get some more mics. Just a second.
Well, I think you explained it better than me. No, the thing is, what I'd like to say is, in Belgium, for example, we cannot use the word invest in our coins or in our tokens. We cannot use the word invest, so we call it a token sale. And actually, the people that buy our tokens are people that believe in the business model, but also in investing in this kind of cryptocurrency, because that's it. You have Bitcoin and then more than 1,300 different was, by the way, one of the mistakes in the movies to correct. It's not DPX but DTX. That's our that's going to be our token or our coin. Now,
what's the justification for the 20 cents valuation per token? I'd be fascinated to hear that. How did you come up with that? That's a little bit like, before a company goes public, like Facebook, they came up with a notional value for the company and how much the stock is going to cost when they finally IPO. And the matrix are usually based on PE value, so future earnings, potential earnings. But with crypto, it's impossible to say. There's just no way of actually knowing what kind of revenue you can realistically be generating by the year 2024.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, something else I have to admit, I worked there for 7 weeks. Oh, okay. I have a background in marketing and communication, worked for BMW for years, in publicity agencies, what else? The biggest phone company there in Belgium too. The
Don't worry, I won't
crypto
too
thing,
much there.
I bought my first ethers 7 weeks ago, and the second part I bought, I sent into space because I used the wrong wallet number. So the classical mistake that everybody makes.
You see. Sorry, raise.
I'm a real beginner. So.
In fact, I was going to say, raise your hand if you own any crypto, but this is a live stream, so we'll have that conversation.
Well, I lost
the
mine, so they're gone.
Okay.
But
yeah, perhaps you might not want to disclose that. Okay, any more questions for our speakers?
Yeah, Kickstarter. You're selling the goods at cost. It costs you a lot of money to actually have the campaign. What is the point?
Exactly.
Well, you're saying just don't bother with Kickstarter.
Well,
or is it a big advertising campaign or what?
Yeah, well, this is a mistake that we made again the second time around, right? Because the marketing company was pushing us to keep the prices lower and lower and lower, right? And our build cost of that was going to be about, it's going to be about £78. People on Kickstarter were probably expecting that to be under £100, you know. So the marketing company was saying do it at that price, but we went for a higher price point. We said no, we can't do that. You know, we need to make some sort of margin on it if we're trying to build some sort of company. We need X number of software engineers, blah blah blah. When the Kickstarter campaign started, it became apparent that, you know what, people just want. That's just how Kickstarter has become. To be honest, now they will expect you to make something like that. We used to get comments, you know, when we were at the Bet Show, we were at maker fairs, people used to look at a product that we made, you know, we spent a ton of time and effort making it, but they'll come up to you and say, oh, I can make that for £60, £70. You know, you just look at them and you think, well, you know what, go and do it. Because tooling, injection moulding, tooling will cost us about £40,000. You know, there's a ton of investment, R&D that goes into making something like this. You know, we did a lot of the work ourselves. So we pretty much know this inside out. I mean, I taught myself SolidWorks. I've got 3 3D printers at home. I've got a vacuum degassing, you know, machine at home. I've got a pressure pot at home. So I've got pretty much, I can do silicon molding. So I can make anything you want, to be honest. But I've taught myself that. And the reason we did that is because we really wanted to watch your pennies. If we wanted to send this out to China, it would have cost us, you know, for 20 prototypes, it would have cost us £2,000. So I said to Jason, look, it'll cost us £1,500 for the equipment. If there's any changes that have to be made, at least I can do that very quickly. You're not having to wait 2 weeks for the product to be shipped to you. You know, you can speed up the whole process drastically. And the products, I mean, I've got one with me, so you can see the quality and the look and feel of what resin casting's like. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If you're going to, you can't factor in any staff costs. You can't factor anything else in. What you know, use Kickstarter for traction. Ultimately, you will have to go and raise investment after the campaign.
Has anyone ever bought anything from Indiegogo, Kickstarter, or one of the other?
I have a few times. Yeah, it's a 50-50 kind of success rate for me, to be honest. You know, half the products haven't been delivered and they've failed. Half of them have come through.
Yeah, but the point is, you went in with your eyes open, right?
Of course,
you
yeah.
Understood the risks.
Yep.
And that's why it's really important.
Well, but that's the thing now, isn't it? That people don't understand the risks. They're treating it as...
Whose fault is that, though,
well,
ultimately? Is it kind of the platform's fault?
I think they're not helping, but people treat
it
like it's Amazon or something, and you're just going to buy the product. And it's very much pitched now that you're not supporting a company, you're buying a product. Yeah. You're pre-ordering, you're going to get your unit, and, you know, you're going to get it at this date and all that. And then hardware, it turns out, is really hard.
Really hard.
Really hard.
Really
So
hard,
you can, you know,
exactly.
you can lash it together in an afternoon, like say, you know, somebody can say, oh, yeah, I can knock that together and blah, blah, blah. But actually getting it certified, getting it manufactured, and all these kind of things that nobody else thinks about that you need to make a hardware product take
and you're not
forever.
Apple, you're not Samsung.
Yeah, you don't have the support doing that.
You know, you're essentially amateur entrepreneurs, and a lot of these campaigns, actually including the really successful ones, like the drone, nano drone or whatever it was, they were expecting to raise like 10, 20 quid. 20,000 quid, sorry, to create a little micro drone, when micro drones are quite difficult actually to build, and now you can get them, you know, they're kind of a commodity. So what they were doing was pretty exciting, and they raised not 20, 40,000 pounds, but it was several million. And then suddenly the pressure was on, because suddenly had just thousands and thousands and thousands of orders. They hadn't even figured out how to make this thing. Mm-hmm. They were just, you know, kind of issuing promises. Oh, it's going to have collision avoidance and facial recognition and inbuilt advanced AI technology. They're like, okay, great. We'll make it. We'll buy it. Here's a few million quid. And the whole thing failed within...
BBC as well, I think they were testing and it didn't even work.
Yeah, it was horrendous. Yeah, I followed that campaign. Just real quick, we'll come back to you. Do you have a question about, because I don't feel I answered it adequately. You were talking about concerns to do with security and location privacy and so on.
Yeah, because just because it's saved blockchain doesn't mean you can. Because the value of the data is that you can locate
well, trusted devices can. And you have to question how those devices are trusted, and that's where the blockchain comes in. But we have at least one security expert. Do you want to field that question, or do you want to go for it?
I'm gonna take your name and email. I'm gonna make sure you get the right answer.
Real quick. Do you want to take this one? Okay. But essentially, the point is, you're quite right that under the current model, if you find some data, you know where to find it, right? Because it's stored on the actual edge device itself, and you hack it. That's particularly even the metadata itself is very valuable. It may not actually contain that much data, but just the fact that maybe there's a timestamp, a geostamp, so something's happened. You know, that property has been entered at this particular time, at that particular location. Now, to a burglar, that might be quite useful, right?
Exactly. You just need the pattern of when the person's out of the house and stuff. And
right.
This seems to be something that I can buy, and I don't like the idea of that.
Right. Now, today, there's no security on a lot of these edge devices. They're shipped without any consideration of the security. It says, come on in. I've got some data. Come and read my files. And that has to be put to an end. We have to stop that, because we'll have these horrific distributed denial of attack scenarios like Mirai last year that took down half the internet, because these devices are being hijacked and used as distributed hacking weapons, right?
Yeah, I'm not totally sold that blockchain is the solution to all the problems.
We'll take that conversation offline later.
But yeah, I mean, this is a huge issue, and the data protection rules that are coming in are going to really affect this. Yeah, I mean, so how are you going to get away with selling people's data? So I worked on a project. The first thing we did as the company was recording data from people's houses. So they knew what we were recording, and that's fine. But looking at the data, you kind of got freaked out, because you could see when people were getting up in the middle of the night and things like that. It's like, oh, look, he's put the telly on. Yeah, okay, now he's making a cup of tea, right, okay. Oh, yeah, that's the oven going on. There's that must be chips, because it was only 20 minutes in the oven. You know, and then you think, I can see all this information about people, and this is freaky. And that was just from recording like electricity usage and temperature.
About Alexa, where it's literally listening into your conversation 24/7.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, it's a marketplace. Look at it as eBay. I'm selling you a bike. eBay doesn't know if I stole that bike first. So the thing is, the data what you are talking about that are gathered in a house, like somebody baking chips in the middle of the night, his wife doesn't know. That's something that has to be guaranteed, or there has to be build a wall around. I don't know how to say that, but there are precautions to take, of course, and agreements. The thing is, you buy or you sell data. You can even decide, I don't want my competitor to buy this data, so you can exclude parts through the blockchain system, and you can say, I want a data stream from then till then. So do you say that?
It's like a door or a gate. Yeah. You can invite someone in for a very specific purpose.
Yeah.
And when they're done, the gate or the door is closed, and they're not allowed back in again.
Yeah.
So you can control data coming in and out. You are. Sorry.
How do you get this data? Do companies come to you and say, "Hey,
well, we are just a marketplace, so there are companies. The video shows the data silos. Yeah. I need an example. For example, what do you call it? The sprinter service, the little vans that drive around with delivery service. Yeah. They can have sensors. They know exactly where they're driving. You can combine it. Somebody else as other data. You put them together. You learn things. Well, they are not today. They don't do anything with those data. Now they can put them on the market. Others buy them. Academic people, they buy them. They add information they have. For example, linked with pollution in that area where this company, or I'm just saying something, you can go crazy on ideas. It's unlimited.
Can I just say, okay, house key. You really don't want anyone having a house key, right? Because they can do very bad things. However, if you found a house key on the street without any identity whatsoever, you would have no idea which house block that key belongs to. It only becomes a problem if they leave their house key with their identity. Okay, there you go.
So now you're saying...
So you remove the
you're anonymizing the data.
Yes.
And
you can do that through blockchain and blah, blah. It's a little bit complex because you've got to have a sort of a basic kind of understanding of how hashing works and blockchain works.
Oh, but Simon, to be able to use that data and make it useful again, if it's too anonymous, how are you going to actually get anything useful out of it?
So that's why you have a trusted network.
Well, exactly. But so I trust you, and I say, right, here's all my data. I trust you, Simon, to use my data. You know that it's me, because we've de-anonymized it now.
Okay.
I've handed over my data.
Well, actually,
that's
I don't
what's
know
happening
who you
when
are.
you're
I
buying.
just have a hash on the blockchain ledger
Well, then
to
it's
say
anonymous,
you're a good person,
and
but
then
I
it's
don't
not
know
much
who you are.
use.
So that was exactly my question. But the main thing is I've got a lot of data I want to sell, and it's something that I think might be interesting. If I put it in a marketplace, how do you know that it's my sensors and not my Python script that generated that data?
Yeah.
Because I've got a few terabytes. It's really good.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna organize a webinar. You can subscribe. I'm gonna put the right person that can go into data. You can post your question. You can.
Okay. In the white paper, you have an administrator. Who actually polices and monitors using a proof of a stake system. So if there's a device owner, okay, and everyone in this network through tokens actually has to put down a stake, like a deposit, right? Now, it's interesting because what happens under your model is the administrator, it's fairly centralized to begin with before they convert it into a genuine DAO. It's actually a corporation in the middle of it. A little bit like, you know, the IoT Tangle, there's like a coordinator right now. So they will have like a central arbiter. And so if a device owner reports that they are getting a bad service from another, from a buyer and not paying, or there's some problem with the smart contract, then if that particular buyer, user of data, is constantly being reported by the owners of the sensors that they're not paying or doing something disruptive, right? Then the administrator will look into it, and if they find that that is the case, the acquirer of the data, of the marketplace data, will lose their deposit and get blacklisted from the marketplace, the DAO. Yeah. So conversely, what's interesting is if it works the other way around, where the device owner starts making spurious, colludes, because they end up winning the stake. Sorry, I didn't say that. Not only does the bad actor lose their stake, but whoever reported or were inconvenienced by the problem win the stake. They get awarded with the stake, and you guys take a little incremental commission from that. But conversely, if you are a device owner and you're stitching up and report data acquirers, then you have the ability, if it's proven by the administrator that you've been faking those claims and pointing at people and accusing them falsely, then you as the device owner, again, will lose your stake. And that stake will be paid to all those people you falsely accused for trying to disrupt the system. So it's essentially proof of reputation.
I confirm that's how I heard it at work, but I'm not capable to say.
That's true. It's more of a centralized. Sorry, I'm jumping on this because I did read your white paper.
That's true. Yeah.
And then that is true, and that can be. I'm afraid the same accusation can be made to the Bitcoin network. The Bitcoin network isn't a fully decentralized system because the miners have way too much control, and it is open to collusion. And I don't know whether the Bitcoin story is going to end well or not as a result of that. And I'll probably get flamed by all those Bitcoin enthusiasts out there. But the same with IOTA. The creators of IOTA say, look, this is will at some point become fully decentralized, but a lot of it is being run on centralized servers. It's almost like putting stabilizers initially, on a bike, when it's sort of wobbly. It just needs a central authority. Same with Vitalik. Vitalik Buterin is the voice of Ethereum. He was the one who more or less decided whether they were going to fork, Ethereum Classic and then Ethereum. Now that should never have happened if it was a fully decentralized network. So you could even say Ethereum is not really a fully decentralized DAO, because you do have these central influential voices of power within the community who make these very, very big decisions. Is that a fair comment, would you say?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go for it. Whose data is it anyway? The dreaded GDPR. Okay. Yeah, I suppose the assumption is if you own that device, whatever data is generated by that device belongs to whoever owns the device. That's the assumption.
This assumption is not true.
Okay.
It's whatever terms and conditions you agreed to when you used whatever that device was. It usually is, but we don't read them, do we? Who reads?
Oh, no, we're not talking about central model. You see, you've got to be. This is in the context of blockchain technology.
So you may or
Decentralized
may not
network.
which you sold something that you didn't own, which you were basically setting, which is a criminal offence. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Probably all heard. Basically, I was just saying, yeah, so it's basically if you sell something that doesn't belong to you, it's a criminal offence. Most apps say. So let's take a game that looks like lots of little bits of sweets, just for the live stream. Do you know how much data it collects on you? You think, well, no, I'm just playing a game. How can it collect anything? These games, they collect something like 300 data points about you. But it belongs to them because you agreed to terms and conditions when you started the game. Now that's the thing.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is such a big subject because, yeah, the GDPR solution is to try to solve the existing problem. It's the nanny state, in my opinion, stepping in, and regulators saying, okay, all the big corporations, we know who they are. It's the GAFAM oligopoly who are harvesting all our data and doing naughty things with it. That's what they're trying to shut down. Blockchain is a whole different approach that I feel will go a long way to solving that problem. But how blockchain is going to solve that problem of data sovereignty and relinquishing the control and giving us the power back to store and control what happens to our own data and not rely on these very, very large corporations to do that on our behalf is a really big topic of discussion, which I think may be slightly outside of the scope of today. It's almost like we need an entire conversation about that very thing because it's so topical and so
or
exciting
possibly
and
a blockchain meetup. If only somebody organised a meetup about these kind of issues.
I do have another
different IoT.
Yeah, increasingly blockchain has got nothing to do with IoT, and IoT has got nothing to do with blockchain. But increasingly that is becoming less the case. They're becoming inextricably linked. But yes, I do have a sister meetup, which was called the Ethereum Scotland meetup, which I was doing every other month. Rather than put all my eggs in the Ethereum basket, I'm hedging my bets. So I've just rebranded as the Distributed Ledger Technology Meetup, DLT Scotland. But yes, there is the Scottish Blockchain Meetup. And we've made sure that we don't clash and hold events on the same evening. But they're really great. They're a great community, and they're doing fantastic things. Do we have another question here? Oh, I'm sorry. I will come back to you. I'm so sorry.
About the LoRa protocol. Has there been any consideration to implementing that protocol on like shortwave frequencies with bigger antennas to create transoceanic ranges for maritime applications and so forth?
Interesting.
Great question.
In theory, apparently yes. How yeah?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the protocol can run over any bit of the spectrum really. So yeah, in theory, LoRa could be used anywhere. And apparently, yes, it was done over 100 meg. Yeah, so 100 megahertz, which is quite a bit lower than the 868 that it normally operates on, which gives you. So it's just a function of physics. The lower the frequency, the further you go. So yeah, apparently yes.
It's also being used by Outernet, who do the internet. They've decided to use that as their new protocol. They've managed to get 70,000 kilometers from a satellite.
That's a lot of kilometers. 70,000 kilometers.
Right. sorry, going back to Kickstarter, you were questioning the gender of people who buy things from Kickstarter, but I would also question the gender of the people who put things on Kickstarter, because I've participated.
Don't mention the potato salad, right? You know the potato salad Kickstarter campaign? No? Anyone? Moving on.
That was £1, wasn't it? I think. Aye.
No, I participated in a couple of Kickstarter campaigns, and they were very successful. I mean, the main one was MicroPython, and it was funding the port of MicroPython onto the ESP8266. And the Kickstarter participants funded that, and then it went on into it was then open sourced. So it was the actual, people putting their money forward to get something that wouldn't have happened otherwise. And I've participated in other ones as well, where there's electronic circuits, people wanted to develop something but didn't have the volume that was required. So trying to use it to fund a company, I don't know if that's the image that Kickstarter themselves put across, but that doesn't seem to be possible from what you're saying and from what I've seen.
But then if it wasn't for Kickstarter, we never would have had the Pebble Watch. That was a huge
Where's
success.
that now?
Anyone got a Pebble Watch or had a Pebble Watch? Yeah, it's good product. Good product, very good product. We'll come back to you, Patrick, because you did do a crowdfunding campaign, and I'd like to know your motivations, or at least Jim would. Do you want to answer that one?
As I said, if you're going to do a Kickstarter campaign, just look at it as traction. Look at it as getting, PR. Look at it as getting validation for the product, getting some, pre-orders in to see whether or not the product does have a market. Apart from that, as I said, don't look at any margins or thinking you're going to employ X number of people. You're going to have a company that turns over X, Y, Z. It's not going to happen that way. There's a company called Brixo who make these Lego bricks, which are kind of coated with chrome and conductive bricks, right? And I met the guy, Gil Taran, he's an Israeli guy, I met him at the Bet Show. So he raised £700,000 on Kickstarter, and then he raised a further £700,000 for the product on Indiegogo. Now, he spent the best part of £120,000 on marketing, to get it to that sort of stage. So, yeah, if you are, but again, his margins, like he said as well, his message was the same. Facebook's the only thing that's going to get you traction for your Kickstarter campaign, but do not look at it as, something that's going to get your company started.
Well, not really. So in 2012, I did my Kickstarter, and it was product was a case, an acrylic laser cut case for Raspberry Pi and Arduino. Just at the time Raspberry Pi had come out, and I did the campaign. I only needed 2,000 quid, and I think I got 3,000, so I got 150% funding. 2,000 quid. All I wanted to do was to fund a batch of 1,000 units. So, and I've, after that, so I had loads of stock left over because I only sold, I think, 500, so I had almost that stock left over. And then I did the same sales after the Kickstarter, so I sold another couple of grand's worth afterwards because lots of people would find the site and then just say, I even got custom orders from a company that wanted stuff with their logo and stuff. So that it worked out really well. But again, I think I was like 95% ready to go before hitting the button. And I also, I didn't do any marketing at all. I made a video, but I didn't have any sort of tweeting or anything going on. But again, it was early days then. But I would like to do it again and do an updated version. And for me, my motivation is really to, I've got products I want to spend. If I want to spend a month building clocks, I only need to raise about 5,000 quid and sell a few hundred clocks, and it's a month of time well spent. People get the product in the end. But again, I think the bigger Kickstarters, and I have many ideas for Kickstarters, but just I wish there was a way you could pitch your ideas and then get someone else to develop them, because we all have ideas that we'd like to do. We can't do them all, so it'd be good if there was a platform you could actually.
There's a company called Bolt.
Yes, Bolt.
Yeah.
Yes, Bolt. Yeah, there is. Yeah, German. Based in Berlin originally.
No, it's American.
Oh, is
as
it?
far as I
Okay.
know, I think they're based in
Alright.
San Francisco, so they'll actually take your product. If it's successful, they'll then coach you through the whole process of manufacturing. But again, they'll take a hefty cut.
But have they done well? I mean, have
Bolt is, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well.
BOLT, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll find their website at bolt.io.
Yeah, I thought they had maybe their European offices in Berlin. So
they might have.
But either way, I've come across them and I've heard good things, and that could potentially be the answer for you.
Yep.
And oh crikey, Highway 1.
Dragon Innovation, I think.
Dragon
was another
Innovation.
one as well.
So they help with everything. someone who lacks experience trying to go to Shenzhen to get something manufactured, good luck with that.
Yep.
You know, they've already got the entire kind of value chain established for you, and they will organize trips for you to go over there and meet the suppliers and help you spec out the product, and a lot of hand-holding. Of course, they're going to take a big chunk of equity or some form of commission.
A surprise, well, one of the surprises that came to us was when we were at the Bait Show in January, post-Kickstarter, we actually had the product, one of the product managers from Kano came over. He'd seen his own Kickstarter, came over to tell us what a great thing we had, loved it. PyTop, who are actually one of the biggest sponsors of the Bait Show, you know, for the Steam Village, both of the co-founders from there, they actually came over, and again, they were fascinated with what we had. We had a demo set up where, you know, because with Pip you can actually use bananas and potatoes as controllers, so we had, you know, a Space Invaders game set up, and, you know, people are coming along and bashing, you know, bits of orange to actually, you know, use as a controller. So they came over and they actually said to us, listen, we've got a manufacturing facility out in Shenzhen, so when you guys are actually manufacturing, come out and see us, we'll get your accommodation sorted, we'll find you a supplier, we'll help you this. So, I mean, that came as a big surprise to me, because you'd expect these guys to look at you and say, well, actually, we can do that, but, you know, again, they saw it as a complementary product to what they do. And, you know, both really nice guys willing to help us to get to where they are.
What I love about your story is so often you get these sort of seamless fables, should we say, PR, you know, kind of constructed versions of the truth, where these startups go from seamless success story to success with no wrinkles along the way, because they don't like talking about experimentation. And dare I use the word failure. I think that's so admirable, the fact that you continued on, you learned from the experience. And I said this to you today in, you know, that quote from Thomas Edison, I think. I never failed, I just found, I think, 10,000
ways not to do it, or
different
something,
ways to do it wrong. But I never failed. Right, and that is part of the journey, and that's why, you know, I really appreciated that you came along to talk about your experience. And in fact, that for me was one of the most sort of inspiring sort of aspects to your talk. And I'm very happy, obviously, that you powered through to the very end and you got your product to market. And I think that requires a lot of, you know, congratulations, and you had a lot of courage so huge respect. So Al, really excited about the deployment of the network. I'm in the borders, right? The zero connectivity, and I'm thinking.
Actually, they might be out there, because there's somebody building out across the
Melrose.
borders.
We'll have to take that conversation offline, but I'm genuinely interested in potentially, you know, what's the terminology? Owning a hub or so?
A gateway. Yeah, it's a gateway. Yeah, if anybody wants to do it, it's £200 or £300.
Sounds perfect.
Let us know. Give us a shout. Well, if you the super bargain version, 110 quid if you build it yourself. So are you handy
get someone else I know to build it.
Are you handy with a screwdriver?
Who might be based in Codebase. Gary, not naming any names. And finally, Frank, good luck with your ICO. Huge challenges, huge rewards. And I'm one of those people who want to see what you're building made real. Not a white paper, not conceptual. And I hope you'll use all the money you're going to raise wisely, and generate huge value to the end users of your product. When is your token sale? P.S. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice. Do your own research before any ICO. Disclaimer. There you go.
So the main token sale starts the 26th of March, and there is a pre-sale the 19th of March.
Very good.
And we are starting to get a lot of pre-registrations now.
Great.
Do you call it the early token sale? Was in October, and the 16th of October. That was a bit less. There was one reason: not enough communication.
Understood.
And now we really invested in international partners to get it done, and it's really, it's starting to.
Like I said, use those funds wisely, because there's a lot of money you're raising. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap things up there. I don't think there are any more questions. We've got a hard stop at 9. We've got to be out of the premises, so that's, what is that, 20 minutes or something? I think there are a few more beers in the fridge, and a little bit more pizza just in the corner over there, so if you're fast, winner takes all. Thank you so much to Skyscanner, our sponsors. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you so much.